Welcome back. Today we are starting a new project, the ATP tractor. I don't know what this thing even is, but I know one thing, it's beautiful, and when I saw it on the shop website, I knew I must buy it immediately. Inside the box we have every single thing that you can expect from Trumpeter. An inspiring painting guide with options like green and green. Both green options consist of the same green color. Instruction manual is typical Trumpeter fashion. By the contents of the manual, this build should be quick, easy and simple. But wait, there is something interesting. They put white sticker with brass wire. I need to know what is this about. So I took hobby knife to lift the edge of the sticker and carefully pulled it away. Under the sticker there is another brass wire. Weird. We also have a flyer with new cool stuff coming soon from Trumpeter. So I guess this model spent almost a decade on the shelf if there is coming soon stuff from November 2016. The kit consists of clear sprue with visors, 2 sprues with wheels and suspensions, 2 sprues with tracks, and another 2 sprues with the rest of the parts. We also have a roof for the loading bed that I will not be using, some wooden box for cargo, and of course the whole of the tractor. The photo etch sheet have these cool chains. And of course decal sheet that is as uninspiring as the painting manual. So the plan for this thing is simple. Build it, paint it with camouflage, load up some cargo and that's it. I don't even know how it will be painted in real life. I don't even know when it was even used. I was convinced that this is a World War II era vehicle, but turns out it debuted in 1950s. Some of you can recognize this thing, as it is similar to some little airborne self-propelled gun. That's right, it turns out that if you take the ASU-57 and then you ditch the gun, you receive this ATP tractor. I've started the assembly of the lower hull and suspension, and then test fitted the wheels. Of course, once the glue had dried and the suspension was permanently installed, I realized I hadn't checked if the wheels were aligned properly, and naturally there's a huge gap in the suspensions and the wheels are floating. Rather than fixing my mistakes, I prefer to hide them, so I guess it will be time to prepare a small vignette with uneven terrain, so it will look intentional in the end. Nonetheless, I've continued remaining undisturbed by levitating wheels. I've started mounting the metal seats and then I got the idea. The real thing has these seats foldable, so I've cut out the hinges of the seats and attached them folded upwards. It will give me more room for cargo and also adds to variety. The manual suggests to start building the tracks, so I started the assembly. There is one thing that bothers me very much, the front transmission pin. The Trumpeter designed this assembly that the sprocket is not movable and both parts of it should be attached on this pin. Both halves of the sprocket does not have any guides to align it straight, so they have to be mounted on this half circle pin to ensure straightness. Not very cool. So I've decided to try for the first time the way of building the tracks together, tracks and wheels as one unit. It will be harder for painting, but this way was the most reasonable option for me, considering that the lower hull has the part of fender molded above the track. So I started gluing the track sections and wrapping them around the wheels as seen here, taking only short breaks for homemade cookies. The results are as follows. Complete track units that can be separated from the hull as one single part. Then I figured out it's time to weaponize this little tractor, so I've started building the machine gun assembly. Of course, I've drilled out the barrel and then mounted it in the mantlet. The gun can be elevated and depressed. Final gun shield and the part is finished. The photo etch sheet does not look too intimidating, so I've tried to deal with the first part, that is the lights. Should not be too difficult, just couple of bends. I've cut out the parts and made a quick pass on the filing stick to get rid of the leftover metal from cutting. I proceed to set the parts with my Chinesium plate and start bending to get the desired shape. Next, with a small drop of CA glue and tweezers, I've mounted the lights. The lights are made from transparent plastic, so you have the opportunity to make them white, as real-life ATPs have white lights. This is how completed part looks like. And it's ready to be mounted on the model. Of course, it is important to remove the excess CA glue with rozklejacz. As you can see, I also mounted the mesh grills on the tractor, but I guess the past modeling me didn't think that future editing me would like to show it properly, so I guess you can see it here. At least I've recorded this mesh on the engine hatch together with the tools. And on the model it goes. Time to mount the rest of the details. I've mounted the hatch hinges as well as the hatches itself. I will leave one hatch open and the rest will be closed off. I've mounted the rest of the details like lights, hooks, horns, tools, the gun shields, etc. You can see on this footage that I've glued one of the lights in a place where a horn should be mounted. And that's why the tractor looks goofy with the lights not lined up. But that's okay, even if I went on and started working on the open hatch, I've came back to fix the light later. But that's not all of the cringe moments. I've tried to mount the towing cable. It's supposed to go around the transmission hatch, so I've cut the wire to the length specified in the instruction manual and started wrapping it around. And it's like way too short, like almost 2 times too short. It should go like this, attached to one hook, go around the transmission hatch and then on the other hook. The diagram is supposed to show the correct length of the cable, as per every single Trumpeter model I've built. All had the correct length of the diagram. And you can see that I've cut correct length. My cable is perfect. I know that I should have measured it and test fit it before cutting, but I'd rather think that this is not my fault. So I've made peace with not having a tow cable on the model. I'll just take this L and continue. This is the moment I realized that the light was mounted wrong, so I fixed it. The hole was filled with horn signal. While I was at it, I also added cables for the lights and horn, but I forgot to record it. So here is the footage of the finished cable. The gun shields were fixed with CA glue instead of cement, because they are flimsy and I can see with my imagination how they fall off during the painting stage. As you can see, there is nothing better than long and thin, curved out plastic wires. These parts have always 125% chance of breaking, so I decided to make a replacement with copper wire. I drilled out a hole, mounted the wire and began to bend it into shape. And here is the result. Okay. Can you see the problem here? That's right, the big gaping hole between the doors and the roof. What a nice surprise! I'm not letting that minor inconvenience to bother me and I quickly fill it out with styrene. As we are getting closer and closer to the finish line, I've decided to add some texture to the armor plates. So I've prepared some putty diluted with cement and stippled the texture with old stiff brush. Okay, so we have the hatch open, but I don't want to leave it just like that. I decided to make some leather padding, upholstery, if you will. Even though in real life these vehicles were unuser-friendly junks designed with hatred towards the crew, we could pretend that this specific tractor had just a little more comfort features. Out of styrene sheet I cut out the shape of the leather padding, leaving the place for handle. I've sanded down the edges so it is smooth and round. Then I've cut out all the edges to make it worn out. It will be an interesting challenge to paint it as leather later. Also with copper wire I've made a simple handle so the unlucky guy that was issued to drive this thing can actually hold it and close the hatch. And that's it, the building stage is completed. The back doors are left out because at the time I was not sure if I want to keep it open or closed. The pile of crates and boxes is what I'm planning to paint and load up into the bed of the tractor. Also I found these figures in my stash and I think they will suit this vehicle nice. That is, if I actually be able to paint them and they will not frustrate me in the process, as I'm really not fond of painting little guys. Back to the build. This is where we are right now. In the background you can see a little preview how the tractor will be painted, and in the meantime you can take a look on the photos how the build is finished. You may ask, why are you showing primed and pre-shade photos and not actual raw plastic? The answer is simple. I was living through my another cringe moment and I forgot to actually record like close-ups of the finished tractor. We will continue soon with the painting video where we will wrap up this build. When we will have everything painted, we will put it all together and then we will hide my messed up suspension and levitating wheels with small scene. The glue on styrofoam terrain is curing as I speak. So, I hope you enjoyed and I hope I will see you in my next cringe video. Bye.